and we will move to L2.
So Helen Olivares will present a little drill down into the subject matter with Chatsworth Reservoir and the history of that, and actually now called Chatsworth Nature Preserve. So we'll I'll let her discuss that as well.
All right, good morning, Madam President and Commissioners. My name is Helen Olivares, and I'm a Managing Water Utility Engineer in the Water Operations Division Property Management Group. And I've been with Water Operations and I've managed Chatsworth for 11 years now, of my 21 years here at the department.
And she used to be a student engineer for me a long time ago.
To be a student engineer for you.
So the program works.
I am very thrilled to be speaking before you this morning to share with you Chatsworth history, its habitat, our community engagement, and what its future holds. So Chatsworth Reservoir / Nature Preserve is located in the Northwest San Fernando Valley, and it's within the City of Los Angeles boundaries and owned in fee by the department. It's so tucked away in the corner of the valley that it's actually adjacent to LA County and Ventura County lines. Before I get into the details of Chatsworth Reservoir itself, I wanted to zoom out for a second to discuss Chatsworth Reservoir's role in the system, which dates back over 100 years ago. So the schematic to the right shows the first LA aqueduct, where it then connects to Chatsworth High Line at the Van Norman complex. Looking at the map to the left, the High Line then traverses westbound across the valley parallel to the 118 freeway, across Granada Hills, Porter Ranch, Chatsworth, and then eventually terminating into the Chatsworth Reservoir. So since the beginning of the planning of the first LA aqueduct, Chatsworth Reservoir was part of several sites to be used to hold surplus water during the winter, and then for irrigation for the farmers in the San Fernando Valley year-round. The first LA aqueduct was placed into service 1913. Chatsworth High Line was placed into service 1916, and then Chatsworth Reservoir was placed into service 1919. The photo to the left was taken in the 1930s, where there was more of an agricultural scene than an urban development. And you can also see that the reservoir is full of water. The photo to the right is a Google Maps screenshot taken present day. And you can see how much the valley has developed these past 100 years. But if you notice, the constant is that the reservoir property itself has not been touched amidst all that development surrounding it. So here's some reservoir construction photos. The photo on the left is the Chatsworth Dam construction site. Chatsworth has 3 dams, and construction method used was a then accepted hydraulic fill method, in which the soil was washed or sluiced into place, and there was no mechanical compaction used. So therefore, the dam had low strength and very little ability to withstand an earthquake. And as you can see, we used a mix of organic and inorganic construction equipment. So we used steam shovels and horses. The photo to the bottom right.
They're mostly organic.
Well, mostly organic. The photo to the bottom right is a full Chatsworth Reservoir. Now, I've managed Chatsworth for over a decade, and I've been there so many times, but to this day, it still feels a little odd when I see a photo of Chatsworth Reservoir full of water. Yeah. Also, fun fact, many Western movies were filmed at the reservoir.
Can I ask you a question about the prior slide, the one that was mapped in 30s
Sure.
to the 23? It looks like the current footprint of Chatsworth is really just the reservoir footprint.
Majority of it is the reservoir, and we also own properties surrounding the reservoir footprint.
And it looks like the 1930s photo showed a lot of land outside of the reservoir footprint. Did we not own that land?
We own that land, yes.
We own that land. So currently it is being utilized or leased to other parties, or did we sell it at some point?
I'll be discussing that, but to summarize, there is a portion, 150 acres north of Valley Circle, that we licensed to Rec and Parks.
Yeah.
For,
But we didn't. This part you're looking at, I think she's looking at the part it's not used for farming. I think it's in private ownership, but was never flat for farming. It's kind of hilly there. I don't believe we ever sold any part of the property off. It's about 1,400 acres.
Okay, that's really more the question.
If you look at the current
footprint. I see what you're saying because it kind of looks like the footprint of the reservoir, but if you look closely, you can see the border of where the reservoir was and kind of the mountains that are beyond it to the right. So there is property beyond what was the reservoir footprint.
Correct.
Right. But the question that I was getting at was really, had we ever sold?
Looks like it shrunk,
Yeah.
yeah, but no.
Oh, yeah, we haven't sold any property, just licensed to rec parks, just a small portion. Okay. So Chatsworth Reservoir initial capacity in 1919 was 7,400 acre feet or 2 billion gallons. However, as the West San Fernando Valley continued to grow in population, the reservoir dams were reconstructed in 1931 to increase its storage. And so the storage was increased to 9,840 acre feet or 2.8 billion gallons. So from 1920 to 1950, Chatsworth Reservoir was primarily used for agricultural irrigation. And then from 1950 to 1969, it was primarily used as a source of domestic supply due to the continuous growth in the San Fernando Valley. Unfortunately, since the initial purpose of the reservoir was for irrigation, when the purpose transitioned to domestic service, it resulted in many water quality issues. For example, since Chatsworth Reservoir was built on a gently sloping valley, there were shallow sections of the reservoir footprint. So in the summer, these sections frequently grew algae and aquatic plants, and then during windy days, the wave action would stir up the mud in the reservoir. Because of these issues, the reservoir had to be removed from service every summer. And there were also issues with storm runoff. Because this is an uncovered reservoir and there was no surrounding drainage paths, the stormwater would flow into the reservoir. So in 1969, Chatsworth Reservoir was drained to construct a project that would improve its water quality and to increase its storage. The scope included deepening the basin and constructing a bypass to convey stormwater flows around and not into the reservoir. And then there was also a scope to build a detention basin with the intent to make it a temporary and experimental ecological pond. And I'll talk about more of that later. But then during construction, something happened. On February 9, 1971, the magnitude 6.6 San Fernando earthquake hit. And as you can see in these photos, the damage was very devastating. The photo on the top left is the Lower San Fernando Dam. Now, this dam was also constructed via the hydraulic fill method, and you can see the extent of its damage. Side note, the upper and the lower San Fernando reservoirs were removed from service as a result of the damages caused by the San Fernando earthquake, and the existing Los Angeles reservoir was constructed in its place. So because of the damage at the San Fernando Reservoir dams, the Division of Safety of Dams directed an across-the-board study on hydraulic fill dams. So an analysis of the Chatsworth Reservoir dams was done. The study concluded that if the Chatsworth dams were subjected to a major earthquake, the dams would not perform. The department would have to completely rebuild the dams. So a business decision was made to keep the reservoir empty, take Chatsworth Reservoir out of service indefinitely, and then reevaluate in the future since there were other higher priority projects, such as designing and constructing the new LA Reservoir, the new LA filtration plant, improvements to Silver Lake, Stone Canyon, and Franklin reservoirs. So over time, it became less feasible to make any improvements at all to Chatsworth, so it's been empty for 54 years. Okay, now I'd like to zoom out for a little bit and discuss the entire Chatsworth Reservoir site. The department owns over 1,300 acres, and that acreage includes the footprint of the reservoir itself and also the surrounding land. And I'd like to discuss 4 key elements that's of great importance. The first is the lime kiln. You see it on the left side of the photo. The lime kiln, or calera, which is Spanish for limestone quarry, is one of the first few surviving structures of the 1800s lime industry. The calera was used to burn limestone as part of the European industrial process to make bricks and tiles. And this was an ideal location because of the surrounding oak trees was able to fuel the calera. Fun fact, the Chatsworth calera was part of the construction of the San Fernando Mission. And it's LA Historic Monument number 141 and California Historical Landmark number 911. Okay, let's move on to the Sacred Circle. So the Sacred Circle is a site for indigenous tribe members to gather and to pray and to hold sacred ceremonies. Though this particular sacred circle was established not too long ago, about 15 to 20 years ago, it's a modern circle to support our present-day sacred ceremonies, which I'll discuss shortly. Okay, the ecology pond. So ever since Chatsworth Reservoir was taken out of service, the department has initiated and participated in programs to support the environmental aspect of this land. So we licensed 150 acres to rec and parks for public access. And as I noted earlier, we also constructed an experimental detention basin or ecology pond. The ecology pond is a vernal or seasonal pond that collects stormwater from the surrounding neighborhoods to provide water for the wildlife on site. And during the dry season, most times the pond evaporates to empty. So what we have are several water guzzlers that also provides water for the wildlife on site. Though the initial intent of the ecology pond was temporary and experimental, the experiment was so successful in attracting a myriad of species of wildlife that it's become a very integral part of the nature preserve. In 2015, we conducted extensive work to restore the ecology pond. The pond accumulated so much sediment that it was nothing but a shallow body that couldn't retain any depth of water. So department personnel deepened the pond and made channel improvements to optimize the amount of stormwater collected. And because of this year's rains, the ecology pond has been the fullest it's ever been. Not called out here, but we also have a variety of oak tree groves on site. We have stunning 100-year-old coast live oak, scrub oak, and valley oak tree groves, and some we assume are over 200 years old. So there's always been great ecological and cultural interest at Chatsworth Reservoir. So in 1994, the LA City Council adopted ordinance number 169723, amending and changing the zoning of Chatsworth Reservoir to Nature Preserve. Then in 1999, the LA City Council, under File 962413, requested that the department change the name of Chatsworth Reservoir to Chatsworth Nature Preserve / Reservoir to reflect conformance with the zoning designation back in 1994 and to maintain the use as a natural ecosystem. The Chatsworth Nature Preserve is the City of LA's first and still only designated nature preserve. Now I'd like to jump into the rich habitat at Chatsworth. This is just a small sample of the myriad of wildlife observed at the preserve. We have volunteer groups who access the preserve twice a year to conduct field observations of flora and fauna, and they share that data and photos with the department. So the photo to the top left is a red-tailed hawk, which is an apex predator, and the hawk is feeding its chick. And there's about 5 mating pair inside the preserve, and one pair has actually been monitored for about 4 years now, and they've had over 30 chicks over that time span. The photo to the top middle is a western spadefoot toad, and it's a species of special concern, which means that this species is declining at a rate that may eventually result in it becoming a place on the endangered listing. I also wanted to point out the coyote on the bottom left. Usually when we think coyotes, we think mangled and underfed. Sorry, coyotes. But this coyote looks absolutely gorgeous. Very well fed and very happy and healthy. So in the earlier slides, I mentioned the ecology pond. The photos to the right is a very full ecology pond thanks to the rain earlier this year. And I also mentioned the oak trees. So the photos to the left are some of the beautiful oak trees that we have there. Not only are these trees magnificent, but they also play a very important role in the preserve's ecosystem. Not only do they improve air and soil quality, but they also play a key role in providing food and shelter for wildlife. So many times you'll see a downed oak tree at the preserve, but if you look underneath it, you're quick to find that it's still home to wildlife. So it's still part of the ecosystem at Chatsworth. Here's some more breathtaking photos at the preserve. You'll notice that most of the photos that I shared today are taken by John Luker. John is from the Sky Valley Volunteers, which is a 501c3 nonprofit, and their mission is to promote healthy and positive stewardship of the local mountains and regional open space through education and habitat restoration. And you'll also probably notice that I've shared some photos taken by our own Commissioner Katz. So I wanted to thank you, Commissioner Katz, for your leadership with our endeavors at Chatsworth and beyond. So although the preserve is closed to the general public, we do provide limited access twice a year. Every April during Earth Month, since 2002, so it's been 21 years now, we host an Earth Day open house on a Saturday morning. There was an exception this year because of the rain, so we hosted the open house in June, near the time of the summer solstice. We attract on average over 2,000 people a year, and the program focuses on the deep history of Native American tribes who once inhabited this land, including the Ventureño Chumash, the Fernandeño Tataviam, and the Gabrielino Tongva. So we integrate their culture into the program through sacred ceremonies, through storytelling and song at the Sacred Circle. And we also focus on Earth Day principles of raising awareness and support for environmental protection. We have on average 40 environmentally focused community groups that have booths there, and also guided nature hikes around the ecology pond. The second annual event we have is the winter solstice. We'll be hosting our third annual winter solstice this December. The winter solstice takes place on the actual solstice day at sunrise. So the event is on a much smaller scale since it takes place in the weekday in the early morning. We gather around the sacred circle and partake in Native American ceremony to celebrate the winter solstice. And then after the ceremony, there's a guided hike around the ecology pond. We're also engaged with community volunteers. As I noted earlier, the volunteers conduct a spring and winter survey of the flora and fauna inside the preserve. And then in addition to surveys, we also work closely with them on a variety of projects at the preserve. I've worked closely with this passionate group of environmental stewards for many years now, and they absolutely love and respect Chatsworth Nature Preserve. So earlier, Catherine and Maria discussed our biodiversity goals to protect, enhance, and restore ecosystems and reverse biodiversity loss for food security, climate stability, and health. And the opportunities at Chatsworth Nature Preserve absolutely supports these goals. As an operations manager who's personally responded to wildfires, the severe drought, then the sudden rain, and then most recently Hurricane Hillary, which are extreme weather as a result of climate change, and as a mother of 2 young children, who's afraid of what the state of the earth will be like for their future, I'm thrilled to be sitting before you to present Chatsworth, its future, and how we could help with the climate crisis. Okay, so the department takes pride in environmental stewardship we've done at Chatsworth for many years, many decades. We conduct annual brush clearance to protect the property and neighbors from wildfires. And we also balance the urban needs with ecological needs. We built the ecology pond, did major maintenance on it a few years back, and we're currently obtaining permits to remove invasive tamarisks at the pond. However, we realize that it makes the most sense to have an entity that's better equipped to assess, manage, and optimize the preserve. And it also makes sense to provide access for scientists, for ecological studies, and for cultural leaders to get reconnected with the land that their ancestors once inhabited. Of course, collaborating with the community is also very important. So we're currently working with the Resource Conservation District of the Santa Monica Mountains on a biological assessment of the entire site. And in addition, we're working with environmental stewards on educational and restoration projects. However, there's still a lot of potential at the preserve. Supporting and restoring native habitat and biodiversity, providing access for research, education, and tribal activities, and expanded stakeholder engagement can all be accomplished under a site management plan. So with that, I'd like to open the floor for questions.
Thank you so very much. This is a tough day for a lot of people, so thank you for being here. Are there questions or comments on this presentation?
I would like to just make a comment about your wonderful presentation. I was there at the event. I feel your emotion because I was there with my 4 grandchildren. And it was a very, very special day for all of us. And we got so much feedback from all the different community organizations that were there with information, with stories, also with the tribal presentation, which was very special. So thank you for what you're doing. And Roxana and Gabriel and Clara and Amos talk about it all the time.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you. Other questions, comments?
Any questions? Similar to last time, I have comments, but I want to make sure we answer questions first.
No, this was fantastic. Thank you, Helen.
Thank you.
So thank you very much, Helen, for your leadership on this and, passion for this. I think it really is about our kids and grandkids' futures, and this work is so important. Chatsworth is a place that's close to my heart. I grew up in the San Fernando Valley in Van Nuys, but my dad worked in Chatsworth, so I spent a lot of time in the area. It is a very special property, and as a couple of folks have mentioned, I do serve on the Biodiversity Expert Council for LA City and have really looked at these resources for the whole of Los Angeles, and there are some unique habitats at Chatsworth that are not found anywhere else in the city of LA. So it's really a very special property, and your work and the work of the community members, including Sky Valley, have really made a big difference in this property, and I look forward to seeing how this moves forward. I want to comment specifically on the tribal relationships here. I just came from a conference where there was a panel of Indigenous biologists that included Tiana Williams-Clausen, who's a member of the Yurok Nation, and their tribe just led an effort, and it was successful, to restore the condor to their tribal area up there in Humboldt County. What was really amazing about this effort is that it was tribal-led and in full partnership with the government agencies that were responsible up there. And I think this type of work of engaging with tribal members in a way that is not, tokenizing or extractive, but really fully working together to try and restore these relationships is incredibly powerful and what we need to transform our world. So I know George is leading that subcommittee and work with DWP, and I really look forward to seeing those relationships grow. There's a famous book, more recent, called Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer, and I wanted to quote her today. She says, "Action on behalf of life transforms because the relationship between self and the world is reciprocal. It's not a question of first getting enlightened or saved and then acting. As we work to heal the earth heals us." So this work is a really great start and will continue. As President McLean Hill mentioned earlier, there's so much more to be done, but I really look forward to seeing that grow. We are all here on land that was belongs to different tribes here in Los Angeles. And the way to restore some of those relationships for us as a nation of immigrants, which includes my family, another quote from Robin, she said, "Becoming indigenous to a place means living as if your children's future mattered, to take care of the land as if our lives, both material and spiritual, depend on it." And I think that's what this work really encompasses, and I really believe that's true. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. I also grew up in Van Nuys, so Chatsworth is very special, and this project is very special for me.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, I want to thank you for your presentation as well, and again, to acknowledge the leadership of our commission members in connection with both this project and the previous report. One of the things that we've been very successful at over the last few years, and that I look forward, thank you, Aram, to expanding in the context of this work, is bringing different stakeholders to our table, both outside of this room and in this room. And the vision that Commissioner Katz and others have brought to this area is really insightful, and to think about how we really go about maximizing and reconnecting and building the kind of quality, deep, substantive relationships around land management, land use. The way in which we start to break down the silos, even within this department, so that we are looking at the relationships that we are investing in in the valley, and thinking about how we expand opportunity to visit and to, to gain access to, especially the kind of educational outreach that could be done at Chatsworth. I mean, these are all incredibly exciting opportunities, and they also represent really how this department builds a stronger Los Angeles and serves its residents in the myriad of ways that we have the capacity and a unique capacity to embrace. So this is, it is important, it is humbling, it is meaningful, and it is, again, always a real privilege to sit in a space where you can see your capacity to have deep and lasting impact on, a community that we all are indebted to and love. So I just want to thank you all for this, and to tell you that I can't wait to see what emerges through the collaboration of this department, the leadership of this board, the incredible work of the staff. All together, we get to accomplish something that seems at times so small, but that is really so impactful and so great. So thank you.
May I say one other thing, just to add, that I recognize also that, Marty, you've spent a lot of your career focusing on Chatsworth and advancing the efforts there, and really appreciate that. And hopefully, while not wanting to rush at you, Helen, certainly there's significant support from the board to move as expeditiously as we can towards the plan that you've talked about. And hopefully we can make some traction in advance of Marty's retirement. So.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. And our final management report today